Welcome to the Tesla Power Podcast. This is the Tesla energy community covering solar panels, solar roof, and Powerwall for your home. I'm Aaron Brady, and today, let's talk about voltage drops on long cable runs. Let's talk about the 4680 coming to the Powerwall. Let's talk about another virtual power plant that's launching. Let's talk about Panasonic's home battery with impressive specifications. Let's talk about residential solar in India. And last, let's talk about how utilities limit your PV system size. Let's do it. And as per usual, we'll kick off the pod with community input. You can participate. You can leave a comment below. You can link your own YouTube videos. You can call 203-816-5150, or you can email teslapowerpodcast@gmail.com. We had our first video question last week, and it was, or last episode, and it was pretty great, I gotta say. So if you want to go ahead and record your own unlisted video on the YouTube app, send me a link so I can put your video question in the show. First up, we have Cody. Cody T. He commented on Brian's video question. Let's take that full screen. Quote, at 15 minutes, I would extend the driveway toward the right side of the house, mount the charger on the house, or trench under the new driveway and mount the charger on a pressure-treated wood, on pressure-treated wood, embedded into concrete. Maybe build a canopy for the car. Got to think about voltage drop. I'm unsure about the voltage drop. End quote. Now, that sounds like a lot more work. I volunteer you to do it. How about that? I mean, just digging the 100-foot trench, that had to be a lot of work on its own. I wonder if he did it by hand, actually. Brian, if you're watching this one, let us know if you ended up using a machine to do that, or if you dug all of that with a shovel. But let's talk about voltage drop over that 100-foot run from the house where Brian will be installing, where he's running the electricity out to where he's installing the pedestal at the end of the driveway. So let's pull up a couple of things. So here I've got, let me go ahead and take it full screen. This is Lowe's with some Southwire details. This is UF63, I think. Do I have that right? I'm just looking for the detail to make sure I've got it right. Yeah. 63 UF. Anyway, so it's got a bunch of details here that we can use in the voltage drop calculator. So our wire is copper. The gauge is 6 AWG. The material, the conduit, is PVC. If we just pop back over here, you can see that's here at the end. And we're leaving the power factor. This voltage is going to be 220. This is 3-phase, single set of conductors, only going out 100 feet. And the max load current on the Model 3 is going to be, I think, 48 amps. So let's put that 48 amps in there and calculate. Calculating. So our voltage drop is going to be 3.69 volts. Is that right? And that's a total of, 1.5%, a little bit more. So we're using the calculator to estimate the voltage drop. Of course, just running through those specs again, we're using, copper wire, 6 AWG, PVC conduit, leaving the power factor. Voltage is, of course, 220. It's 3-phase. And we're using a single set of conductors, 100 feet one way, at the max of 48 amps. And you can see that we get about a 3.5 volt drop. Again, a little more than 1.5%. And I found a few threads, so I want to pull one of them up that note what happens when you have that voltage drop. Let me see if I can pull that up. I might as well go full screen from the Tesla Motors Club. I see a lot of this kind of stuff, but I don't find it as helpful stuff to generally talk about. But what they talk about in this string is very apropos. They're saying that that voltage drop will just slow your charge down a bit. I'd say 1.5% slower. It's no biggie, Cody also pointed out that what I called bezels around the borders of the solar panels are actually called side skirts. So thanks for pointing that out. It's really good to be educated. All right, next up, we've got A question from Dwight Adams. He has a question about the Powerwall. Let's bring that full screen. Quote, do you expect Powerwalls to contain the new 4680 batteries by the end of 2022? End quote. No, I don't expect the 4680 will make it into the Powerwall. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I think the 4680 is going to be reserved for cars and for the structural battery pack specifically. The smaller 2170 form factor isn't appropriate for that structural power pack. So the 4680 form factor, just on its own, not even considering the structural battery pack, it's going to take a few years to scale, and demand for those cells is unbelievably high. Just with the Model Y, we don't even have to consider the Tesla Roadster or the Semi. So what I expect we'll see in the Powerwall, though, since we won't see the 4680, is an iron variant of the 2170. We have a lot of production capacity that could potentially be shifted away from the Model Y once the 4680 scales, and probably the Model 3 as well, right? And that should free those cell lines up for producing for Powerwall. Now, they don't want to just move the 2170 production over, probably. They probably also need to reduce nickel consumption, because that's going to be a key factor in avoiding vehicle production bottlenecks. The vehicles is really where that nickel is needed to raise the energy density. So changing the chemistry of the 2170 cells probably makes a lot of sense. Move them over to like LFP, the iron chemistry. So this will also increase value to the customers in a way. It will lower energy density a little bit, but LFP doesn't require as much thermal management, maybe allowing for more room for actual battery cells inside the current Powerwall 2 footprint. Those batteries will also last longer. They can charge and they can discharge much deeper every single cycle. In fact, 100% of capacity. And, maybe we could talk about when the move could happen, right? When do we think maybe the LFP 2170s would move into the Powerwalls? I'd say it's likely to be maybe like, I don't know, like a couple of years, right? I would say specifically they're going to start transitioning once the 4680 production is done ramping, and done ramping at all 4 Tesla factories. So that's going to be Berlin, Austin, Shanghai, and Fremont. So I don't know. My guess, I think my best guess is 3 years away from LFP 2170 Powerwalls. But let me know what you think. Let's talk about it. Next up, we've got Jerome. He's back. And he continues the conversation about consumption and puts me in my place. Let's read it. Quote, about your energy assertion, one problem is that you can't design a PV array size with what you think you'll be consuming in the future. You can't just tell Tesla, I want a 50 kilowatt system on my roof. As you know, the first thing that Tesla asks is what your current consumption is. And you probably know that they ask this because the utility won't allow the sizing of your PV to be more than 120% of what you're currently consuming. If everybody was producing as much as they wanted, the grid would not be able to handle it, I suspect. So, sadly, I believe that the first thing in anyone's assertion should be for a new utility grid design before anything else takes place. The grid is so old and won't be able to manage everybody's PV systems. Batteries will help to stabilize the grid, but will that be enough? I have my doubts. End quote. Straight up, this is exactly why you should start with consumption. Unless you've juiced your consumption, the utility will restrict the size they'll approve for your photovoltaic system. So honestly, I really should have pointed that out explicitly in the last episode. So thank you for the note. Also, you were absolutely correct that if the utility just allowed homeowners to produce as much as they wanted, the grid would not be able to handle it. The answer to remedy is storage for the homeowner. It's not storage for the utility. I agree that the grid is old. It won't be able to manage everyone's PV systems, and it shouldn't. Each PV system owner should be able to produce as much as they possibly can and should be able to store all of that production locally. Now, we definitely have a long way to go before this can become a reality, but we cannot and should not plan on using the grid as a battery. We need more batteries in homes, and we need them to be more affordable in order to accomplish that. And straight up, scaling battery production is our only hope. And it needs to be more than just Tesla driving this effort. Anyway, thank you to Cody T, to Dwight Adams and Jerome King for their input. Jump in here, send in your YouTube video links, comment below, call 203-816-5150, or email teslapowerpodcast@gmail.com. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll read some news. All three of our articles in this podcast are from PV Magazine. Just happened that way. It's not often that one publication gets all of the articles, but the first one that I wanted to point out announces a new VPP, that's virtual power plant from SunPower. Let me bring that up full screen. Quote, nice. And where I wanted to quote from, right. SunPower Corp said it will launch a virtual power plant program that will let energy storage customers who use its SunVault system to be paid for allowing the local utility to use stored energy during peak demand, end quote. So what I find interesting is that the participation requires their hardware adoption. You can't participate in this VPP with third-party hardware. And we see that same thing with Tesla. Very interesting how that's kind of squaring up right now. I don't expect it will always stay that way. I expect that that would become an open standard at some point, at least in some circles. It may end up being like a Google, like an Android versus Apple thing at some point. But the question, is the hardware adoption subsidized up front? Or is the incentive purely a market incentive requiring homeowner to bear all of the costs up front? No details here, but I expect it's the latter. More details would really be nice, but we'll keep an eye out for those details as the project rolls out. Next up, we have a second article from PV Magazine. This article covers the release of the new Panasonic Evervolt home battery. Quote, Evervolt 2.0 offers enhancements for greater customization and features a convenient modular footprint and weatherproof design, the company said in a statement. Up to 3 systems can be stacked together to obtain more power output and energy storage capacity. Panasonic said that the system is available in the US with storage capacities of 17.1 kilowatt hours and 25.65 kilowatt hours. The product comes with a floor-standing battery cabinet and a hybrid smart inverter with 4 MPPTs. That's places where you can plug in solar, by the way. This can be AC coupled or DC coupled, and it makes it suitable for both new and existing PV installations with power up to 12 kilowatts, which is pretty great. The system is reportedly able to provide a continuous output of 7.6 kilowatts off-grid and 9.6 kilowatts on-grid, end quote. I got to say, this is a very capable offering from Panasonic. None of us should be surprised. They've been in this game for a long time, and, of course, they're supplying cells to Tesla at the moment. It mostly outperforms the Powerwall and offers more flexibility than the Powerwall, officially. You know, the big question is how much this thing's going to cost. Sounds awesome, but there's not a single hint on the interwebs of the price this might come in at. If I had to guess, I love to guess, I'd say probably about 10 grand for the 17 kilowatt hour capacity and $15,000 for the 25.5 kilowatt capacity. So, I don't know. Let's see how close I am when we're able to get some real numbers. And then last up from PV Magazine, this is from their Indian division. This article covers a milestone for residential rooftop solar. Quote, bring it full screen. So Loom Solar, an emerging solar technologies company, solar technology firm under government of India's Startup India initiative, has hit the milestone of deploying rooftop solar solutions for over 50,000 customers across India within 4 years of its operation, end quote. So the Indian market is often overlooked when looking at global demand and the adoption of residential solar. You'll see in the article photo that the installation is on a multifamily unit. Let me bring that full screen again so we can take a look. This is the photo that they provide. It'd be helpful to understand if, the 50,000 number that they are talking about is the total number of customers, or if it's the total number of installations. I have a feeling it's the former. So this single installation might be for, I don't know, 30 people. So that juices the number quite a bit. It would be interesting to get a handle on how big this project really is. And it's really hard to understand its significance without that kind of detail. But I did find the tech really interesting. So they're using these bifacial panels from the German company Shark to increase capacity. And that capacity is going up from like an average of 350 to almost 550 watts per panel. Something that I haven't seen in the US for sure. And if any of you guys know of any of those kinds of installations in the Americas where we can get some more detail, let me know in the comments below. So let's take another quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about production and consumption and our house compared with my brother-in-law's house, who's got the LG solar panel system. We'll be right back. So we are still out producing the LG panels at my brother-in-law's house. Let me pull up an insert. I've got to do the zoom insert so you guys can read it. So you can see here that their production curve, really gets hit after noon. They're producing about 20 kilowatts on decently sunny days. That's down from their peak of about 85 kilowatts in June. I have that weekly number here in just a little bit, but you can see how our curve is comparing with their curve. Their curve definitely has this peak in the morning and then really gets hit in the afternoon. But ours is a nice, good curve all the way through the day. We generated 24 kilowatts on this particular day. And then here it shows their weekly production with the regular solar panels, probably just under that 20 kilowatt, average over the week. And then we can see their month-to-date numbers here. It's about 475 kilowatt hours for the month. Not too shabby. Of course, we should take a look to see how that compares with our solar roof production, right? Give the people what they want. So here is our production curve for today. So perfect. So perfect. And look at that high number, 26 kilowatts for a single day right now is really good. And there is our month-to-date generation. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Well, lobster dinner. How about that? We're outproducing them by about 20%. Again, this is because our home is oriented in a more favorable direction for this time of year. We have a lot of producing solar panels on the south side of our home. We also don't have any tree coverage on the south side of our home. There happens to be a street there. So we are outproducing them month to date at, we're way above 500 kilowatts now. And that's only a 10% delta. Of course you could probably notice that I round their numbers down. I round ours up. Insidious, that perspective bias, but I could have made it sound way worse, way more pronounced by framing it another way. I could have said that we are 125% of their daily production. But I was reserved. I just noted that we're outproducing them by 20%. Such a good person. And I did just a little teaser for the 6-month review. I figured out that we don't yet have 6 months of data when I was working on the numbers. I thought that we had May numbers post-install, but I realized even though our install was in May, we didn't get anywhere near a month of production until June. In fact, we produced essentially zero in May, and our utility bill reflects that. And I find what I find very interesting is that there's an increase in our bill year over year in May. So let me pull up those bills. Give me a second here. Here I've got the utility bill from May due in June. You can see it's $224.90. we used 836 kilowatt hours. So this bill is showing our usage at 836 kilowatt hours, costing us $225. That's what that's showing us here. And then let's look at our May 2021 bill. This one is split into two bills because we got our new meter during this billing period. So they stop billing on the old meter and start billing on the new meter. So pre-meter bill is 594 kilowatts of usage, costing us $150.17. And the post-meter bill consumption is 391 kilowatt hours, costing us $97.38. So that makes the totals for May 985 kilowatt hours, costing us $247. Now, for those of you keeping track, that's more usage at a lower rate, which is totally crazy, right? This was specific to the pandemic, and rates aren't expected to continue going down. But, you know, super interesting, since this isn't an expected result. I did get a quick update also from Frosty GT, so let's take a look at that. If I can pull that up quickly. Yeah, I can get to that actually quite quickly if I just click here and here. Because he didn't put the comments, interestingly, in this last video. He put the comments in a previous video. So now that I've got it pulled up, I can just scroll to it and click read more so that I can bring it full screen for you guys. Just scrolling it into place, and there we go. This update is simply unbelievable. You know, Tesla's picking up the tab for the transformer required for him and his neighbor so that Frosty GT system can be connected to the grid. So let's read, quote, I lucked out again. Tesla is paying for the new transformer upgrade needed. Normally, the customer pays this. Because of the way Tesla sells the system first, then gets permits, it missed the transformer upgrade and is eating the $6K cost. They also missed a $2K disconnect cost, which they also covered. Tesla issued check to National Grid. National Grid said today, once they get the check, or even a copy of the check sent from Tesla, my transformer will be installed. Then I need a new electrical inspection from Tesla to get my meter and PTO. So maybe I get PTO for Christmas? Not holding my breath. End quote. I mean, I'm floored. Super stoked. You know, I wonder if this is a bit of an effort to make sure that you pay your bill. You know, I know I'm being a little cynical, but, you know, shouldn't it be the utility paying for this transformer? It's just awesome. It's awesome. And the $6,000, I mean, it seems cheap to me, you know. It doesn't include transportation or installation, I suppose, but why ask why, you know? Let's celebrate with Frosty GT and offer our congratulations on impending PTO, dude. And on that awesome high note, let's call it for episode 36 of the Tesla Power Podcast. You, of course, are welcome to use my referral code. You can save $500 on a solar roof and $300 on solar panels. Go to ts.la/Aaron62310 to place your order. I am Aaron Brady, your Tesla residential energy community organizer, and let's do this again on the next video.